Hey folks, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I'm going to show you how to pan instruments in your mix. We're going to be walking through the basics of panning today, but before we dive in, if you are ready to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and really start to hone your workflow as an audio engineer, then I have just the thing for you. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF that will walk you through the entire mixing process step by step to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the hassle and without any more of the guesswork. It is a completely free guide, and you can download it below using the link in the video description. Now let's jump in here and take a look at this track and the panning for these instruments. Let me start, of course, by playing you the instrumental for this song here. I've got the lead vocal muted here because this track isn't quite released yet, so we're going to keep that under wraps till this track comes out. But let me hit play here for you on the instrumental, and then we're going to dive into panning these instruments kind of from the foundational instrument to our last few kind of candy sprinkle instruments or our frosting on top here. So here's just the chorus for this instrumental, and you can hear what our track sounds like. Okay, we're going to start with the foundational instrument for the song. And now the foundation, when I say foundational instrument, I don't mean like the drums or the bass guitar or something like that, or even the vocal. What I mean is the instrument that the song is written to. So in this case, the song is written off of the acoustic guitar. So I'm going to solo up the acoustic guitar, and we'll zoom in here as well so we can see it. And you can hear the acoustic guitar part that everything else is built around for this song. So here's our first instrument, and then we'll talk about the panning. So that's kind of our main chorus hook on the acoustic guitar. That's our chord progression there. Now, because it's a single acoustic guitar, and there's other stuff that's going to be built on top of it, I'm choosing to pan this. Not all the way, though. If it was a simple guitar vocal track, and it was just one acoustic guitar, one lead vocal, I would probably keep the acoustic guitar straight up the center and then put the vocal on top of it and maybe add ambience from there to give it some width. But since we're going to add other instruments and we're going to build the space around this guitar, I want to keep the center open. So I'm going to pan this acoustic guitar 50% to the left here. I'm not going all the way to the left because it's our only main rhythm instrument here. It's our foundation, so I'm not going to put it all the way out wide and send it all the way off to the left. 50% to the left, so it's going to give us some space in the middle here, but it's also going to stay right here so you hear it all the way through the track, okay? One more time. Here's our acoustic guitar, 50% to the left. Great. Now moving on from there, the next thing that goes in is our vocal. Now our vocal is going to go straight up the center here. Again, I'm not putting the vocal in at this moment because not a finished track, so vocal's not quite out there yet. We can get it out there once the song releases. But after our vocal, we start building the space around this track. Now the first thing I reached for was something to complement the acoustic guitar. So we have our main rhythm instrument. It's panned 50% to the left, okay? Once we get our vocal in, that's going to give us our main melody. But now I need something to balance that acoustic guitar, another kind of rhythm instrument. I don't want to double the acoustic guitar because if I'm doubling it, I would probably pan them out wide here. What I reached for was the piano. Now the piano is another rhythm instrument. It's not playing the same thing as the acoustic guitar, but I'm panning it opposite the acoustic guitar to give us some balance in the panning spectrum here. So take a listen now. We've got our acoustic guitar panned 50% to the left, and now our piano panned 50% to the right to balance things off here. That's what you want to kind of keep in mind as you're panning instruments. If you put something off to one side, what's going to go on the other side to balance it? So you can hear now we have a nice kind of full spectrum here. One thing on one side and then something else on the other side to balance things together. That way we're not leaning to one side of the panning field or leaning to the other side of the panning field, and we don't have any kind of emptiness on one side opposite the other. We have two instruments panned exactly opposite each other, and they balance out our panning field here. Now, moving on from there is where I want to add some bigness in the bottom end here. I want to add some percussive instruments and kind of give the track a groove here. So the first thing I'm going to reach for here is drums. So I'm adding in the drum kit here, which is pretty much just a kick drum going through. Now, kick drum and snare drum, when it comes to drums, I'm panning kick drum and snare drum up the center 100% of the time here. Those are foundational elements of a track. Once you get your track built here, kick drum and snare drum 100% of the time are going to be right up the middle for me. I don't need those panned out to the side. It's not, the 1960s anymore where drum kits are panned off to the side. I want those right up the center, and I want them to be strong here because they're going to be big, low-end instruments. They're going to build the bottom end of our track, so they need to be stuck right in the middle here and not moving off to one side. If I had toms, I would pan toms audience perspective. So, you would have your highest tom panned a little bit to the right, and then we would move all the way to the left for our lowest floor tom. There's no toms in this track, it's just a kick drum, but that's how I would pan toms if I had them. And then obviously overheads are panned wide, and then this room track is panned up the middle here. So I'm going to hit play with our kick drum pretty much going in. You can hear now we have some strength and some power radiating from the center of our track. We've got our two instruments panned 50% on each side. That's giving us some width and giving us some balance in the panning field. And now we've got some power in the middle with our drums, with our kick drum. Going on top of that, I wanted to add some percussion to kind of emulate the snare drum sound, but this is more of an acoustic style track, so I didn't go full drum kit. I'm adding in claps. These are panned straight up the center. If I wanted to go bigger with these, I could do more claps and kind of pan them wide. I didn't want to go so huge with it, and I wanted to kind of sit in the space the snare drum would inhabit. So I'm panning these right up the center. And then we have our tambourine also going right up the center. I'm usually 90% of the time, almost 100% of the time, I'm putting tambourine up the center. For me, it's a support instrument for the snare drum. So our claps are emulating our snare drum type sound, but a little bit softer. And then our tambourine is there to support that same part, so the same snare drum section. Now shaker, if I do have a full drum kit going on, I'm putting shaker right up the middle. But since it's just a kick drum, I'm going to put the shaker where the hi-hat would normally sit. So for me, the hi-hat's usually sitting about 50% off to the right. So I'm panning the shaker to sit in the same spot that the hi-hat would fill. So now we have this kind of pseudo drum kit going on with our kick drum, our claps, our tambourine, and our shaker giving us our hi-hat feel here. So here's our full drum kit, acoustic guitar, and our piano. Now we've got this beautiful bass to build the rest of the song around. We've got a nice gentle style drum kit here, acoustic style drum kit from our kick drum and our claps and our percussion instruments here. And we've got our two panned rhythm instruments or melodic instruments, our acoustic guitar and our piano. Next thing I'm adding in is, of course, bass guitar. And for me, again, another 100% option here. Bass guitar is always, for me, 100% of the time, right up the middle. It's sitting right at home with the kick drum. I don't like putting low end out wide. I want it right in the middle, and I want it to build that powerful center section of our song. So here's same instruments, adding in our bass guitar straight up the center, supporting our kick drum in the bottom end. Almost forgot to unmute my mic there. There aren't many things that can match the power of your kick drum and bass guitar being panned up the center. That relationship there of those two things working together in the center of your track is pretty much unmatched. If you don't have that and they're panned off to the side, you're usually going to be fighting for power in your low end and fighting for power in the center. So if you're not panning your kick drum and your bass up the middle, consider it to get that kind of extra oomph and that powerful relationship going in the center of your track. Now, we're coming into the sort of topper elements here, the sprinkle, adding that spice to our track. The next thing I'm adding is a pair of elements here. So we've got balance in our track, so we don't want to disrupt that balance. So I'm adding a pair of electric guitars here. They're playing different things, but they are balancing each other panned wide in our track. So we don't have anything melodic wise that's panned wide yet. So that's what this is going to serve. Pair of electric guitars panned out wide, balancing each other, but not playing the same thing. So it gives some differentiation, but they're giving balance in our panning field here. So here's just our pair of electric guitars. So you can hear they're different parts, they're different little twinkles on each side of the track, panned out wide, but they balance each other out. So again, we're not leaning to one side of the frequency spectrum here. So let me throw everything we have in so far here. So that's acoustic guitar, piano, our drum kit and our percussion elements going on, bass guitar, and now we have stereo panned electric guitar. So now we have melodic elements that are panned out wide. This is where we get some width in our track with our wide panned electric guitars to complement and build a little bit further out from our acoustic guitar and piano. And also gives us some space to identify our instruments because not everything's panned out wide sitting on top of each other. Acoustic and piano are panned 50%, and then our electric guitars are panned 100%. So there's some panning space between them so we can identify each of these instruments. Take a listen, everything together so far. Okay, now what I'm going to add is something I think of as a depth instrument here. This isn't something you always hear, but it's something you feel inside the track. And it's going to be this gentle pan. So let me play you this by itself first. It's just this consistent pad note that's going to ring through the track. It's the same note all the way through, or the same kind of fifth interval, but it has a little bit of movement to it, so it doesn't get too monotonous and you forget that it's there. It's adding feel and it's adding depth all the way through the track. So take a listen without it, and then I'm going to add it in. You can hear the difference it makes inside the song. To me, this instrument is a filler, and I don't mean it's just in there just to be in there. It is in there because it fills all the cracks and it fills all the space between our other instruments. So in essence, it kind of brings our whole track together. We have some space between our piano, our guitars, our drums, and our bass. This pad element, you're not hearing it like, oh, there's a pad going on, but it weaves in between everything and fills out our track here. So when it's gone, you notice it. Now, last but not least, this is kind of the sparkle. Background vocals are always kind of a sparkle element for me, and they're a nice topper to a track to finish it out and to really give your track some width and some beauty. So background vocals, a stack like this, I'm always going to pan wide because they sound beautiful and they fill out the track. So take a listen to these by themselves first. There's nothing quite like some wide panned oohs or ahs or background vocals to fill out your track and really give it some depth and push it out just a touch wider. So take a listen now. Everything going except for our lead vocal, which would be up the center here, not usually panning our vocal around unless it's an effects vocal. Lead vocal is always going to be up the center. We've got acoustic guitar, piano panned 50% to each side. Then we've got our drums in, panned up the center except for our shaker, which is panned 50% off to the right. We've got our bass guitar, also panned up the center, building that powerful relationship in the low end with our kick drum. Electric guitar is panned wide, giving us some space between our melodic instruments. Pad, this is a stereo instrument, so it's out wide, filling all the cracks between our melodic instruments and our drums. And now our background vocals, giving us that extra depth, giving us that extra width. So take a listen, everything together. Now we have a full track here. So let me go through one more time. I'm going to mute everything and we're going to add each of these tracks in one by one here and build out our song. And you can hear how each track as it comes in fills its spot inside the mix here. So let's start with just our acoustic guitar here. Did I mute the bass? I did not. So just our acoustic guitar, and we're going to add each instrument in order here, and you'll hear how the track starts to build. You get that balance, and we get that depth. So when you're trying to pan instruments in your track, always start from the foundational instrument. And if it's a mono instrument, maybe consider panning it out 50%, finding something to balance it, adding in your drums, keeping your low end up the center, so kick drum and bass guitar up the center. Then we're adding in our wide pan instruments here, so our stereo electric guitars sitting out wide beyond our acoustic guitar and our piano. Adding in our pad, giving us some depth, and then of course adding background vocals to give us that extra depth and our extra width in the track. I hope that was helpful for you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you're ready to take your mixes to the next level and really start dialing in your workflow as an audio engineer, then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and you can download it below to start creating more professional mixes in less time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.